Okay. Hello, my name is Carl Dakin, and this is the first show of my LinkedIn Live show called Successful Funding. And I welcome everybody who's in the audience today to join with us and participate in the show. I'll kind of work through the ground rules first to make sure everybody is up to speed. Um, First, if you see my lips moving but you can't hear anything, you need to click on the talking heads, and that will bring you into the meeting so you can all hear and listen and participate. And it will open your ability to put comments in the chat room. And then from there, if you want to say hello, I would ask everyone to put in your name. This is kind of like a practice session, first time walkthrough. Put in your name, your company, and where you're coming in from, anywhere around the world. Then during the course of today's show, anytime we say anything that captures your attention or something that you feel you want to shout out about, please make a chat in the chat room. We'll display some of these comments across the screen in front of us as we go along. And then we'll talk about them if we can fit them into today's conversation. So with that, I have as my guest for my first show, Don Cohen. I'll give Don a chance to talk here in a moment, but first I want to sing his praises for a little while, not the whole show, but at least a good part of the show. In that I see that Harvey is here with us this morning, and this proves to me that at least part of these AV things are all working together this morning, which is really good. Um, so Don is an expert in LinkedIn, and mid-year last year, I'd been doing a number of podcasts, and had two issues I was trying to address. One was I felt like I was talking to myself all the time, even though I had guests on my podcast show. I really never knew who was watching it, and the fact I wasn't getting any feedback was causing me continuous concern that maybe I was off topic or I was too high or too low on a particular topic. And I just didn't like the fact that I couldn't see my audience, so to speak, and I couldn't know if what I was saying was resonating with them or not. So then I was trying to get into this concept of community, which is going to be today's topic. And I didn't think I was getting the job done with podcasting or some of the many, many other things I do out there in the world. So I started looking around, and I saw that Don was telling people you should try LinkedIn Live. And so I started watching his shows, and it really captured my idea of what I was looking for, which is a way to talk about raising capital, talking about small businesses, talking about helping our communities, and doing it in a way where I could get feedback and know what everybody was doing. So I reached out to Don, and Don said, "Hey, yeah, I want to help everyone who's out there who would like to start a LinkedIn Live show." And he then put together an educational program, a cohort of people, including myself. And a few months ago, we started working diligently to figure out what's going on. And Don knows LinkedIn Live like no tomorrow. I can never know enough about LinkedIn Live. So I'm using Don as an extension of myself, as a guru or a special advisor, or whatever term you want to give to that. And he's been helping me do this, and this is the first show. I'm looking forward to doing this show every time at 8 a.m. on Tuesdays, Mountain Time, going forward. And Don has preached to me about consistency and the value of always being there at the same time so you all get used to it. And so today's topic is going to be community. We're going to be diving into what it means, particularly from the perspective of a small business, particularly from the standpoint of raising capital or raising funding. And with that, I'm going to turn this to Don. And I'm going to say, "Hey, Don, good morning. I'm so happy you're on my show. And welcome to New Successful Funding.
Well, thank you, Carl, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you, especially on your first show. It really is gratifying to see how much we've been able to accomplish in about 2.5 months from where we started to where we are. And it only took, coming on the show every other week and meeting every other week in the collaboration group. And I see Kelly's here, I see Harvey's here, and he's in the group. And they're all rooting for you because how well you do is a reflection on how well we do with people like yourself and how we can accelerate the process. I mean, Harvey has the franchise show that follows my show, which follows this show, and Kelly has the Awesome Journey, which follows Harvey's show. So you could actually get a triple decker if you started at 8 with Carl, move to me at 9, move to Harvey at 10, and move to Kelly at 11 Mountain Time. And in broadcast they call that road blocking. So if you buy a certain spot on every channel at a certain time, everybody listening will hear you. So with that, I'm so excited by the topic community. I'm even more excited to be in the passenger seat because I forgot what it feels like, and it gives me a better perspective on what it is when I have guests. And I have my show every day, Monday through Friday, with special people, Harvey, Kelly, Carl, Dave. And what we're so proud of is the community we built and how we built it. And I think what's so important, what Carl's doing and what Carl will only continue to do better, is the community side of it. People are too focused on them, and then they get focused on their content. They forget the audience, and the audience eventually will turn into a community if you continue to bring value every day. And I think that's the key, is relevancy and really being cost and time efficient with your time on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn Lives get 24 times the comments as organic video, which is 5 times more in text posting. So, Carl, congratulations on pulling the trigger today and hitting the go button, and it's a green light for the future. I know you're going to do just wonderful because you have the personality for real time, real people, real conversation. So thanks again, Carl.
Well, Don, thank you very much for that. And just to be clear to everybody, this topic today is about community, and we're going to dive deeper into what that means. But I'm doing this LinkedIn Live show as a very intentional, significant component of building my community as we talk about it. It's because I work with raising capital, work with small businesses. It's important when you go to put together a capital campaign that you have a large group of people who will support you in raising that capital. And all too often, I work with businesses where, at the starting point, they have a small crowd, as we would call it, but the crowd is too often comprised of people who are watching, not acting. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define community as a group of people who support you, the individual, whatever your capacity is, with or within outside your business. But it's also the people that you support. This has got to be a reciprocal type of relationship where everybody feels a kind of a tribal sense that, if I get the call for help, I will show up, I will do something because I feel that I want to help this other person. And I know in turn, I have an instinctive sense that they're going to come help me. And it's one of the things in working with Don on LinkedIn Live is when I started to put together my, thought process on all this, I had over 4,000 followers on LinkedIn. But I will have to say, I maybe know 1 in 5, 1 in 10 of those people. I've never done anything with probably 80% of those people. And that's okay. But if I wanted to do something, I would really like to have all 4,000 show up rather than just a couple hundred people show up. And that's when I started understanding what Don was using in the term community a little bit more nuanced than what I was using, which is this concept of mutual support. So I'm looking to define this, and I'm looking to build my community, but I'm also wanting everybody who's watching the show today, listening in, to have their own community, to build this like an asset, which is on-call group of people who will come on down and help out whenever help is needed. So I'm going to go to Harvey's comment here first in the morning. Harvey has, as Don described, he has his own LinkedIn live show. It'll be 2 hours after this show today. So, just sit back in your chair. You can watch me for an hour. Don has a show immediately after mine, and then Tuck is going to have his show immediately after that. So if you had nothing better to do this morning other than get educated and build your community, you're in the right place, right time this morning. So Harvey says community funding, great topic. They should change crowdfunding to community funding. And I think that's a really good idea, Harvey, because too often the crowd is, as I explained, it's like going to a theatrical presentation. The action is on the stage or it's down in the orchestra pit. The audience is sitting there passively watching and they're being entertained, but it's a one-way type of interaction. And what we really would like to do is get the entire audience up on stage and let's all jam with the music together and play together and work together towards common goals and objectives. So I think that's really good. And Rex is here this morning. Rex is doing some cool things. He's an entrepreneur. He's working with a new invention with ski boots, which could revolutionize the ski boot industry. For any of those who are skiers, you should check Rex out. Kelly is making a comment here that spending the majority of my career in capital markets, this show and topic are of great interest to me personally. Kelly is one of the other people who have been advising me. Don is like the tip of the spear, but he's brought Harvey Tuck and Kelly Steineke into his team, and together they've been part of the advisory group that have been working with me and two other gentlemen who are also going through this cohort. And we are all basically drinking from a fire hose from these three individuals who have hundreds and hundreds of live stream broadcasts under their belt. And using this information has allowed me to get this program up and running in a relatively short period of time, where if I did it the old-fashioned way by reading and everybody's books and doing all that stuff, I'd still be a few more months down the road. So Don, looking at Kelly's definition of community and Harvey's statement about community, what's your thoughts on what everybody should be doing to build their own community?
That's a terrific question, and I appreciate it because one word that stuck out from what you were just saying is nuance. And when you look deeper, because most people on LinkedIn are very superficial. They make connections without conversations. They really don't know who the person is, may never get to know the person. What I see about community is not just the value one provides, but the knowledge share everybody gets to play. So what Harvey's learning on the franchise show, what Kelly's learning on the Awesome Journey, what I'm learning on my new live stream network, and actually today's show following is going to be with Beverly Glazer and Dr. Deborah Dupree, and it's women's empowerment. So every Tuesday is women's empowerment event. And what I learn now from Carl every week, especially when we get together in the group, is little things he picked up that I might have forgotten about, being Carl's first show and my 600th show. But I think what it comes down to is if you're a good person and you can project that trusting element, that friendly element, and that industrious element, that's really what you're trying to get across, because your words get forgotten way earlier than the feelings you derived. And you want to keep coming back to someone who provides value, but also provides you with an opportunity to say, if Carl can do it in 10 weeks with help, why wouldn't I want to do it? And why am I sitting in the audience watching when tomorrow I could have my own show and play? And what's so other wonderful about it, and Carl was able to introduce Rex, who's working on that innovative ski element, is you get to now project people around you who don't get that exposure. So there's direct exposure, which Carl's having, but there's collateral exposure that I'm having, Kelly's having, Harvey's having, Rex has been mentioned. And over time, if you're going to be on LinkedIn, why not get the most bang for your buck, value for your time, but most of all, evolve, continue to get better, because it's 1 billion people registered here. A little piece of a big pie will get you a long way. And like Carl says, drinking out of a fire hydrant, when did you have a buffet of options in front of you that only thing it depended on is you taking action against it? And in most cases, it's ignorance and fear that prevents people from acting on their desire or passion. But if you can get into a group that's doing it, that's enjoying it, that's sharing it, it makes acclimation so much easier. And here's the other element. Why not have the luxury of enjoying yourself, having fun doing it, looking forward to sharing what you know is worthwhile, and you've never had that opportunity? This allows more exposure, but more access. And it's so easy to go from audience to stage to show. And that's the progression. Be a guest or join a group like we have, and get your toe in the water. Everything I do is 30 days at a time. I don't want to overcommit either way. And I want it to be comfortable and pleasurable. But, I can say that in the last 6 months, 18 people who had never done a show are now doing their own show. And that happened organically, without a group, without anything. And that's when the light went off to say, hey, why don't we just get more and more people out to sea, in their own boat, and have them chart their own course. So I think this is fabulous. And when you got somebody like Kelly and Harvey, and goes down the line, Con and Dave, and, more and more, that's really community. It's more, actually, the next step beyond community is family. And eventually it turns into a family where people are living and cheering you on vicariously. Because if Carl can make it, it proves things out. And I can always say, don't look at me and Kelly after hundreds of shows. Look at what Carl's been able to do. And I think he's going to be able to open doors for people he has yet to meet, be able to bring value that he didn't have the vehicle to do it with. It's really like getting a big tractor and now going to work on your farm versus doing it by hand. So, Carl, I still feel like a host.
Yeah, no, that's why I wanted you to be my first guest on my first show. One is you are the expert, you're my mentor, my sensei in this, but you've only done several hundred shows. So I figured every time I might drop the ball, nobody would notice because you could keep on talking. No, it's interesting what you're getting at down there, in that if you think about your relationships, and whether we're talking about fundraising for a charity and they call it development work, or you're working in raising money for a small business and we call it crowdfunding or some other type of funding, it's all about relationships. It's all about whether or not that person who's receiving the pitch believes in you, trusts you, and agrees with whatever it is that you're trying to do. But I keep going back to investors and also to businesses and saying that if you don't know the person exists, there's never going to be a transaction. There can't be a relationship. And this is where it gets hard, because I will say, out of the 8 billion people in the world, about 7,999,000,000 people don't know I exist. So no matter what I'm doing, they can't get behind it. They can't help me. They can't do anything else. So I have to look at being strategic, using my precious time to get the word out to people and trying to build relationships and do this on a continuing basis. I make the point that, if you're going to do this correctly, you should get a time machine, go back 10 years and start working 10 years ago, because it takes time. A lot of times when people start a capital campaign, they go, well, how soon can I go? And I go, well, how many people do you know? And the answer is, well, I've got 1,000 Facebook followers. And I'm going, okay, how many of them can you email by 5 o'clock tonight and ask them to do something, and they'll get back to you by 5 o'clock? And typically I hear crickets when I ask this question, because almost nobody can do it. And yet that's the kind of responsiveness you're looking for. You don't, dial 911 or call the fire department and expect them to show up 3 weeks later, because that's not going to do you any good. Same thing in your community. You just got to reach out there and have people who are ready to respond, who kind of know what to do or know where to go to do something. And you've got to work on that. It's a constant effort. And you will have, as Don describes it, your family, your close-in family, who will pretty much support you all the time, no matter how much you make a mess of it. And when Don says that if Carl can do it, you can also do LinkedIn Live, he is sort of talking about lowest common denominator here. So meaning that you don't have to be a public speaker. You don't have to be some expert in whatever it is. You just have to be yourself. And what I really like about this show is you get to be yourself. You're not making a pitch. We're not selling any products. We're just talking about the issue. We're trying to share information and get feedback. So as an example, we have here Laura Harris, who I'm working with on a really fun campaign, equity crowdfunding campaign. And Laura's building her community, and she's doing it in the middle of a campaign because we had to get started right away. So it's kind of, we're going to do a duality here. Let's try to raise funding while we're also building our community. But one of the fun points, and I kind of put it in my newsletter, which I will put a plug for that. I do a daily newsletter called Instant Funding. And this is part of Don's advice to me, is that you always need to be present. People won't think to call you if they don't know you're there and in standby mode, ready to help them. And by putting yourself out there all the time, somehow, some way, whether it's through a newsletter or a LinkedIn live show or some other thing, then they, when they need to call Ghostbusters, then they know you're there. And so I've been doing this newsletter now for 56 days, I believe it is, and I'm up around 524 subscribers as of this morning. And this number is building every day. So not everybody in this group is going to be part of my community, but they're closer to me than all the people who are just following me on LinkedIn. So we start dividing the world into concentric circles, and you'll have your core group, your go-to group, who is like your A team. You'll have your community is surrounding that. And then you'll have other people who know you exist, and you have a communication channel where you can reach them and tell them about what's going on, because these people aren't necessarily going to be doing the same thing you want to do day in and day out. They may say, well, Carl's a Rockies fan. Let's all go to a Rockies game. Well, that would be a kind of a thing that they may join me on. Or we're doing an impact fundraiser. Let's go do something over there. Or Carl just over the weekend got talked into running in the Colfax Marathon, not the full marathon, just the 5K race, the little short race, as a fundraiser for a charity called Camp Wapi Yapi. And I'm going to be reaching into my community and finding out which portion of my community might want to step up and help me with that fundraiser. So it's not an everyday thing with everybody, but having this channel communication wide open where people can see us and talk to us about what we're doing, that's good. But one of the things about this show, which I really appreciate about LinkedIn Live, is I get to be me. I get to talk about everything that's on my mind and what's on the mind of everybody who's participating. And it's a conversation. It's not a sales pitch. I don't have to worry about getting my intro, my outro, and all my music and everything else lined up like I had to do for the podcast. I don't have to do post editing or wait 4 or 5 weeks to have an interview or something show up. This is today. And a week from today, we get to do it again. So this is all cool. It's another comment from Harvey here. Great show, Carl. Thanks, Harvey. And really enjoying it. And your newsletter is fantastic. Real value delivered. So thank you for that. And Kelly, who's with us here, one of my other mentors in this. A healthy community brings us support, safety, and the courage to try, do things we would likely never do on our own. And I think that's a really good comment because too often, particularly as a professional entrepreneur and having a lot of, I'll call it the genetic disadvantages of being an entrepreneur, I have a tendency to do things by myself sometimes. And I sometimes think, well, I'll just do it myself. I won't try to get anybody else to help me. But by doing that, I'm limiting who I am, what I can do, what I can accomplish, kind of impact I can have. Where if I do this as part of a community, as part of a larger group, I can do ever so much more. And so that's part of the reason why having a community is very, very important, because it greatly improves your capabilities, what you can accomplish, what you can be successful at. You can have such a greater impact. And that's why I'm trying to be as intentional as I can right now in my community. So Don, tell us about your community and what you're doing to build your community.
Well, my community is in a way an extension through your community, because it's all about how do you make something sustainable, duplicatable, and scalable. But what I really like about your show so far is you are just being yourself. You're just talking. You're not teaching. You're really just opening up. And I think that's the key, is in a show like this, especially a friendly community type format, you tend to benefit by the what's in it for them philosophy, right? So what's in it for the audience, because their time is something they had an option to, and they decided to invest it in you. Are they going to get great takeaways? And most people, when they think of takeaways, again, they're too shallow in monetization. Well, did you get your money's worth? Was it worth your time? Versus what did you learn? How did you grow? Because it's incremental. And that's the easiest way to learn, is a little bit at a time in a comfortable way. The nice thing is you get to meet people, the networking capabilities. If I'd be connecting with everybody on the right side of the screen, at least introducing myself, because these are relevant connections. These are people who are doing the same thing you are at the same time for the same reason, is to learn, grow, benefit, evolve. And sometimes you just need a tailwind. Everybody's got their airplane. It's how high can you fly for how long, and how enjoyable to ride. And eventually, how many people can you take for a ride and then help them get their plane? So it's kind of like, I used to be slightly involved with like NASCAR, and you see racing teams, right? You see it like Penske and other people like that. They got 7, 8 drivers, 7, 8 cars, and they leverage that, right? And they're comrades. This is the same thing as, who do you want to build your racing team with? Who do you want to race with? Because the other thing I learned about the audience, they're like a polishing wheel. If you lean into them, they'll polish you. They'll tell you what they're excited by, what's working. And you get out of that tunnel vision, vacuum mentality into, hey, this is what everybody's voting for, then this is where I'm going to go. Because if it's them first, that's all that matters, because your benefit will come either directly through the benefit you just shared, which is worth an hour of your time. And here's the other thing. It doesn't stop here. It begins here. When this show is over, it goes into syndication and distribution. And 10 years from now, somebody might be learning something that we'll never know about, or the person we never met. And isn't it a great feeling that good work and goodwill continue after you're done doing it? That's like residual income, but residual gratification. Carl?
Yeah, so this is part of the learning curve I've been going through in that as you set up your system, like I said, if you're doing a podcast or if I'm teaching a course, guest lecturing at Denver University in their entrepreneurship finance course Thursday morning, I'm talking and it's kind of a one-way communication. Occasionally, somebody will come back to me with a comment or a question, but as I dove into doing my newsletters, I'm working on promoting this program and doing other things. It becomes very important that the comments have to be substantial. We're gonna try to move to something that's. I saw what you said. I have a slightly different look at it, or here's something else you may try dropping, some information into it. And this becomes a habit that you develop where you are looking every day, you kind of go through all the comments, you respond to those, you go out to the people in your community and you say, hey, Leslie, I saw something that you posted today. Here's my thought on that. Or here's somebody else who's followed me and I really like what they said. There are some people who are not yet in my network, but who are talking about investors and how an investor should not only invest, but they should buy the product and they should advocate for the product. And I so love that statement that I'm trying to build it into my own stuff here. So I'm learning from them as I'm trying to help them and as I'm trying to reach out. And too much of what we do today tends to be one way. It's like I'm pushing it out, pushing it out, pushing it out. And I'm looking for feedback. So anyone who's watching the show right now, if you have a question or a comment about what you think community is or how building a community can help or how you build your community, please use the chat room to put that in the chat room right now, because Donna and I are talking, but actually you guys are on stage with us right now. We want you all helping us up here, tuning up your instruments, getting them all ready to play in a grand orchestra. And so we welcome any questions or comments, anything you want to dive down deep on today's topic of community, because this is part of the building process. We're sitting here talking and getting great insights from Don, as usual, because he's been working on designing this community. He's been leaning into it, as he called it, for a couple of years now. And as he's very polished, as we would say. And that's good, because as you watch what I'm doing and you watch Don talk, you're going to see different maturations, so to speak. I'm still a little rough. I'm still going to be figuring this out for the next few months. But one of the things that Don and I talked about, both on some of his prior shows where he invited me in as a guest, is that you really don't learn as much as you think you can until you're doing it. We can sit here outside, we can watch somebody do something, but until you step onto the football field with players that are 300 pounds, 6'8", coming at you at 100 miles an hour, you really don't understand what that's about. And it's the same thing here. So I could have spent another 2 or 3 months planning, designing this particular program, but I wanted to learn as quickly as possible. It's one of my good or bad habits. So I said, I'm going to go ahead and put this show together as quickly as possible. We may make some mistakes. We may make a number of mistakes. We had a camera issue 5 minutes before the show, but we got beyond that. And I think I know what I did that caused that. But this is all about learning. So every time I put on a show, I'm learning more. And I encourage each of you, if you're thinking about building a community, go try it. Try out different things. Figure out different groups to join, different ways of helping your community, however that's defined. one of the things with community I will throw out is there's a tendency to think about your own backyard. This is a term that's been, not in my backyard, in my backyard kind of a thing. And the point there is that we sometimes think very geographically, but with the internet, technically anybody in the world can be in your community. And Harvey is in the UK. I didn't know Harvey a few months ago, but now we're in the same community, and his show's in a couple hours, which I'm going to be listening in on, because Harvey's talking about franchising, and franchising is a way for small businesses to grow, to extend, to accelerate their growth. And I want to learn more about franchising because I've worked with a variety of franchising opportunities, but Harvey's bringing the best and the brightest as guests to his show, and it becomes a source of knowledge for me. And as I try to understand it more, then I can help my clients who may need to grow to consider franchising as one of their options. It's just an example of all the different people who are watching this show. They all bring their own knowledge, their own contacts, their own value. And that's where a community takes on this hyper value that goes beyond the individual. It's just the value of the group. So I've got a comment here from Dennis, who is in Denver, who I haven't met yet, that Dennis says, building successful, polished fun together. And the point is, if somebody's in your community, they bring value to you at so many levels, it's sometimes hard to understand. You get to a level of comfort in talking with somebody in your community. You can kind of let down your hair. If I had hair, I would let mine down at this point, and we would talk about that. But having the ability to talk without feeling like you're truly in the spotlight or under the thumb of whatever you're doing allows you to get into, I think, a better depth, a greater richness of conversation that you wouldn't get if you're just talking to yourself or putting out a lecture or something. And I think that's really good. And Dennis put up another, he says, we learn from our mistakes too. I can't disagree with that at all. In fact, early in my career, I learned I had a knack for making mistakes, and that if I wanted to learn from my mistakes, it would take 10 or 12 lifetimes because of my innate ability to make mistakes. So it would be better if I learned from other people's mistakes, and that way I could maybe avoid some of them as I went along. And everybody in your community has a set of experiences. We talk about a person being the sum total of their experiences. Learn from them, build your community, learn more. It seems to be very natural and so forth, but we sometimes get caught up, I think, in saying, I've got to do something here, and still internalizing this instead of externalizing it and saying, well, if I need to accomplish something, is there someone in my community who can do it better than me? If so, maybe I should reach out to them instead of trying to do it myself. And as we talk about launching small businesses, bringing new products and services to market, really having a team, a team of people who surround you, who have all different skills and talents and experiences, just makes it not only easier, but higher probability of success. And if you're out raising capital and you're the lone wolf and you're shouting your own praises, from a stage somewhere in a pitch competition, that's exactly what you look like. You look like somebody who can't work well with others, who doesn't know how to work as a team, who is going to be limited in their ability to size and scale what they're doing because you're all by yourself. Where if you bring 10 or 20 people, or you bring the entire audience onto the stage, investors are very impressed. They go, look at all the people they've got helping them. That's cool. I like that. And that gives you an advantage. So Don, have you ever made any mistakes in putting together your program?
Yeah, I guess it depends on how you qualify a mistake. I always look at it like a learning experience. And when you're dependent on technology, on different connections happening, everybody else's connections working out. It's a catch as catch can, but if, I do one every day, Monday through Friday, and I used to do them every day, 7 days a week for a year and a half, is there's always another show. The beauty of an hour, because I've talked to a lot of people and they do 30-minute shows or 20-minute shows, and because they're teaching and they only have so much they can teach. But when you're talking and you're talking with other people who are just as interesting or more so to the audience, an hour seems like too little. And what I found that's really important, again, the deeper you go with this, the richer it gets, but most people don't drill that deep for that long, and they never get a chance to visit that beautiful new subterranean paradise, let's say, is that you can promote yourself through promoting someone else who promotes you, right? It's easier for me to say, catch Harvey's show, catch Kelly's show, catch Carl's show. Well, Carl's saying, catch Kelly's show, catch Harvey's show, catch my show. Everybody's going to get that exposure. But if we're all promoting each other because we believe in each other and the value we bring, and that's the difference with, let's say, typical engagement pods on LinkedIn, where everybody's got to raise their hand at the same time, do something, and it's so false, it's so irrelevant, and it's so empty. It's a reflection on how you do business. In a sense, it's cheating. It's shortcutting because you don't know any better. And everybody wants to get to the end because they don't know what the middle is and they're bogged down in it. But if you have a launch pad that all you have to do in an hour is have a couple good takeaways. So to your initial question of mistakes, it's like, more. That's why you chop it up. And that's what this is good for too, is repurposing. Maybe I'll only have 4 60-second tidbits that are really great. Well, that's plenty. And then if Carl has 4 and everybody learns better here and learns together here, it has so much relevance. I think what Carl's going to see in time is not only will he get exposure and top of mind awareness because of the increased reach of content amplification, but Carl's going to end up having a tool he can bring to every company that he services, right? By getting more exposure, because Carl's made the point over and over again, and I think it's absolutely true, is the more people you have that you're working with, the better situation you're in. If 50 people are interested in investing versus 6, that changes the dynamics. It might change valuation. It might just change the quality of the team that you're connecting people with. And what people want to know, people who are raising money, they want to know what's your influence, what's your network, who can you go to make a call and get money tomorrow? And then how do you go to market, right? And then you can actually then not only raise money, but raise that support team around the exposures you have here. And maybe you try someone out before you do business with it. Have them on your show, honor them. Part of the deal of supporting someone's investment strategy is exposing the brand and the company over time to your network. Now you're going back to get more than a better return, but also a more comprehensive approach, because what people want to also do is polish their brand, get brand recognition, identify themselves as a thought leader, identify themselves as a connector, influencer, networker. And you can do that all because this creates that landscape, right, that you can build on. And I think by building with other people, I'm learning 4 times as much on a Tuesday, because when we get together this Thursday, everybody will have learned something not only on the show, but in preparation of their show, in support of your show. And what you learn here and what you do here, you can apply to other things and say, I can be more cost and time efficient. Plus, when you get something that's open field, if you ever watch football and someone gets the ball and there's nobody in front of them, that is like the most exciting 4 or 5 seconds until they cross the finish line or get a touchdown. And when's the last time you had a community and a family rooting you on, doing the same thing as you are, validating what you're doing, validating who you are? And the other key component I see that strings everything together is humility, is honoring other people, not being self-promotional, not patting yourself on the back because it looks bad anyways, where your time should be supporting the person. And there, it's like a bucket line in the fire department, right? You know, all you do is keep passing it along and keep getting it and passing it along, and then everybody gets something. So, you know, one has to look at it from a financial, possibly career, professional situation. But wouldn't you love to know that you're helping people in so many ways, so many times, and you're giving them the chance to help themselves, where you're not the guru always passing out, but, you know, Carl?
Yeah, no, this is a common thing. If you watch any of the shows on LinkedIn Live, you'll have a comment and you'll have a comment and a comment, and suddenly you're stacking up things you want to talk about, and you're going, oh, I want to talk about all these things. First, going back to Dennis, the term mistake is something we use, we toss around, but it's interesting when you use the word mistake in your community, and it's not a down mark. It's kind of like, oh yeah, it's a sign of experience. It's a badge of accomplishment. But I used to talk about raising capital where everybody had all these problems they needed to solve, but I decided that the term problem was still wrong. And so I changed it to challenge. So basically, something's not where you want it to be. And as entrepreneurs, we all want to make the world a better place by trying something new, something different. And so when we go out there and try to do something, the first time you do it, it's not going to be perfect. In fact, it could be a real mess. But the fact you tried gives you a better perspective when you go back to do it again. Depending upon the complexity of what you're doing, you may have to do it 100 times before you get okay at it. And it may be 1,000 times before you become a master of it. But if that's what you want to do, then go forward. And your community, though, is helping you with that, because they're coaching you. They're telling you, I like what you tried to do, go do it again. If that's the kind of thing that you're working on, then your community will be like a group of advisors. And as they comment on what you do and how you do it, they're telling you that thumbs up, I like what you're doing, or I'm not quite clear on why you're doing what you're doing. Maybe you should do something else. I'm going to get into one other comment that Don had, which is this ability to share information over time. And then Don, as we mentioned, Don has his own show, which is coming up at 9:00 Mountain Standard Time. So you can all do your time zone adjustments. So he'll be leaving a little bit early because he has all these things he does to prep. I mean, he has to get out a cup of coffee, he has to get his hat adjusted correctly. Don will be signing off here in a couple of minutes. And so before he leaves, Donna, I do want to thank you for being the guest on my first show, and for everything that you brought to the show today, but everything that you've done for me and helping me get to the point of putting on this show. So last comments for you, Don, before you have to jump.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you again. I want to share how proud I am of you and how you were able to take the initiative and run with it. And I can see you're a natural for what you're doing, and this is only going to get more successful. I want to share that everybody can, I know a lot of times you can see anybody's broadcast, whether it's Carl's, mine, Kelly's, or Harvey's, by going to their profile background on LinkedIn. So anytime you want to see that show, you know how to get there. And again, I think this has been fabulous. I've been so comfortable. I know the audience is. I want to reach out and thank the audience for being so supportive today and having people come out who are part of the team. And with that said, Carl, Look forward to many more shows and more mentoring and learning together. And you're as much a mentor to me as I am to you, believe it. So thank you, everyone. If you have a chance, catch Kelly's show, my show, Harvey's show. There's plenty of shows. And eventually, hopefully think about getting your own show, because it can do you so much good. And it can accelerate where you want to go in places you never dreamed you could get there. See you later. Carl, I'm signing off, but I know the next 10 minutes will be even more exciting. I'll even catch it later. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye for now.
So, yes, we have about 2 minutes left into the program. And so I want to share a little bit more information about you, about this show, where we're intending to go. And I'm going to be looking for more guests like Don. And I'm primarily looking for people who are with and small businesses. And so this could be a company that provides services to small businesses to help them be all they can be dealing with marketing, sales, operations, whatever. It can be a government program like a small business development center, or it could be a local community foundation who is working with economic development efforts. We're going to have a number of people from the economic development field, because I think that any small business really should be looking at your community in multiple definitions. It's not just who's in your backyard, but too often we find ourselves doing our own thing, and we kind of lose a sense of everybody around us. And yet we are a significant part of the local economy, however we define it. And we need to work with our community to happen. And so it's kind of an exercise for everyone is to kind of take a step back and ask yourself, well, who is in my community? Who can I help? Who can I reach out to? And use the outward thing. It's not about me. This is pay it forward. This is pay it back. This is who can you bring value to, that should be going through your mind as you're thinking about building your own community. And it takes time, and it takes an investment. And some, like we talked about earlier, there are mistakes, or there are things that don't work out. Not everyone's going to want to be in your community. Not everyone's going to want to do what you want to do, and that's okay. You're looking for affinity, you're looking for common cause, you're looking for people who want to collaborate and work with you. And on some things they'll enjoy doing that, and some things they won't. And so you're going to have to get more sophisticated, as I'm working to make myself more sophisticated on what does everybody care about? What does each person in my community care about? And I'm trying to continue to work on that, and track everybody while the crowd's getting larger. So we're going to be talking about some tools for tracking communities or members of a community, such as CRM systems and different services that are available. But everything is open and fair game, because as we go forward, this program is, you're going to see us talk about funding all the time. But to really be ready to receive funding means that your organization, your business, charity, community program, whatever, you really need to be thinking about your community. You need to understand, how that works, how you participate in that, how you can bring more value to your community. That will reflect back on you, and this will help you build that community around you. Laura has another comment. Thank you for today. Looking forward to more shows today. What Don's been doing is he's been helping people like me create their own LinkedIn Live show. And I really, recommend anyone who is trying to do anything more than maintain their own hobby. And even as a hobbyist, it might make sense to start building a community around every activity that you have an interest in and determine who's in that community and how you can give value to that community. And that takes time and reflection. It takes a little bit of experimentation to just going to fit into your community or not, and whether you can bring any value or not. There's lots of things I like to do, but I am a person in the audience who's just watching, because that's basically all I can do. But I find lots of situations where I can help out, and typically that has something to do with raising funding, because I've just done it for 45 years now, so I'm starting to get okay at it. And I bring my own creativity and my experiences to the table, and I share those. So this is one of my means of reaching out to everybody. So thank you to everyone who's here today, who participated in this under my successful funding label. If you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, Instant Funding, you're welcome to do that. I try to put out something every morning to tell people about a different lesson I've learned. And so Rex asked the question, what can we do as a group to help you build this community? Rex, thanks for that question. And it really gets down to right now, if subscribe to my newsletter, watch the show. If you are a person who's helping small businesses in any fashion to start or to grow, and particularly if you're doing anything with helping raise funding, I'd like to get you as a guest on my show. So if you know someone that you've worked with who's been if you're a small business and there's an advisor that you work with or somebody that's on your team or something who can bring and share experiences, that's what I want to do here. I want to get everyone to have a chance to learn and to grow. And we're going to talk about what is in a community. So if you see somebody write something or post something in social media, take a moment or two to comment. And more than thanks for the comment or whatever, tell them what you're thinking at the moment. Give them a reflection so that they can see a little bit of what they said mirrored back at them, and that'll give them more perspective. And that goes for everything, but everything that each of you is doing in your comments and postings and so forth. So that's the starting point. Then beyond that, if you think that you have a story to share, let me know, send me an email. And when you do that, this may become a feature story or a lesson I can put into an upcoming newsletter of Instant Funding newsletter. So that's pretty much what I'm looking for today. Thank you, Rex, for asking the question. I also have a last minute question before we run out of time today. Just post it in the chat room to the right. Dennis has posted, do you help folks sell their businesses too? Time to sell my small business after just 49 years. Dennis, you're quitting after 49 years. That's such a, I'm almost disappointed that you're getting out so early. We're going to have to compare ages, see who's older here. But I do not sell businesses, but I do help people who are selling their businesses, because when a sale of a business occurs, you may need to raise money on the seller side or on the buyer side in order to do that. And I do have a new client, the Atticus Group, who is actually in the process of acquiring boomer businesses where there's no succession plan, and helping them basically transition into new ownership and new leadership. So we're looking at different types of funding, from debt financing, equity, overfunded insurance, and other mechanisms that are both community or economic development, as well as private investor, as well as community driven. So there's the sale of a business is really hard because there just is a lot of businesses out there doing well today, but there's no one standing ready to step into the shoes of the owners and go forward. And yet these businesses have already been through the drama, the trauma of getting started. So they actually represent a safer, more viable opportunity than trying to start from scratch. So good things there. See, Mark Hutchinson has put up a comment. Thanks. I see a great future for this community. Yeah, shout out to Mark. Mark's launching a business in the gaming industry, and he's putting all the pieces together. And it's like herding cats some days, where there are so many different things you have to do and get so many different people to do them at the right time. So I often use the metaphor of an orchestra, where you have a conductor. Somebody's got to be the conductor to try to keep everybody playing the notes at the same time, but with different instruments, and creating a result that's greater as a whole than they can do individually. Solos are great, but the community approach is better. So with that, we're done for today. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this first show of Successful Funding. We'll be back in 1 week, and I'll be getting a post out on who our speaker will be and what our topic will be. But come on back, and look forward to working with all of you in the future. Take care.